Welcome to the third in our series of the metal learning series. My name is Melissa McGregor, and I am a director here at Jobs for the Future. And I am so happy to have some special guests with us today to share with you their experiences running an apprenticeship program. And before I do that, it is my pleasure to introduce Lucinda Curry, who is the workforce manager of oh, thank you. Thank you, Jessica. Sorry. Our agenda today is going to be that Lucinda is going to give you an overview of the metal project. I'm going to talk about what registered apprenticeship is and how it can be useful to you. And then we're going to launch into a discussion with our employer, our guest employer today. And then Dr. Becky Caldwell is going to wrap us up and let you know how you can get involved. So with that, I'm going to introduce Lucinda. Go ahead, Lucinda.
Hello, and thank you all for joining us this afternoon. Just give you a real quick overview of what METAL is. METAL stands for the Metallurgical Engineering Trades Apprenticeship and Learning Program. It came from a rationale for METAL really came out of the Department of Defense need to increase our resiliency in the supply chain for casting and forging and plate rolling. Some people may not be aware that metal castings are used to produce over 90% of all durable manufactured goods and nearly all machinery used in manufacturing. So everything pretty much that you touch, feel, use in your daily life probably has a cast or forged part in it. And so it's critical, not just to our national security, but also for commercial use. And so the foundry workforce has really decreased over the years substantially, and DoD has deemed it critical to build that resilience back. So of course, with automation and with robotics and new processes, you can do a lot sometimes with less people, but you need people in the supply chain. You need a workforce to run that new equipment and to run the automation and to be problem solvers. So instead of dark, dirty, and dangerous, it's getting to be more and more high tech, clean, and sustainable. So that's one of the things that we're trying to build into these training programs. The Navy's goal is to train more than 10,000 manufacturing workers per year over the next decade. And this program started out with NAVC funding, but then also the Army and the Air Force has pitched in. So the IBAS, the Industrial Base for Analysis and Sustainment, has provided the funding to help build apprenticeships, to help build engineering programs, and to help build that supply chain into the workforce from K to 12 and beyond. Okay, next. And you see here another slide just really showed that decrease in the foundry workforce, 26% reduction from 2005 to 2019, and that's what we're trying to turn around. So a little bit like turning the Titanic, but it can be done. And with all of JFS help and other great partners that we have from universities and nonprofits around the country that we're building the program with. Next. So as I said, METAL is an industry-led national initiative, but it is supported by the Department of Defense. And our primary partners that started the program, along with Jobs for the Future, are ACME, the Composite Institute, and Penn State, and the University of Tennessee. They've built out the foundational pieces for it so that we can now expand across the country. Next. And a few words from Dr. Matt Draper. He is the Technical Director of Metallurgy and Manufacturing with IBAS, and he is our project manager. But he says the shrinking supply chain for critical defense materials demands an immediate response. We must rebuild a modern workforce, technologically adept and capable of meeting the demands of our defense industry with efficiency and innovation. So I cannot say it any better than that. And so we definitely want to fulfill that mission that Dr. Draper has laid out for us. And building apprenticeship programs with companies in casting, forging, and plate rolling is critical to that mission. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Lucinda. So I'm going to talk about what registered apprenticeship is. A lot of people use the word apprenticeship in multiple ways. And when I say apprenticeship, I usually mean registered apprenticeship. Next slide, please. There are 7 core components of an apprenticeship program, and outside of these 7 core components, the apprenticeship program can be designed and flexed in any way that fits your needs. So the first piece is that employers must hire apprentices. They must be hired. It's a real job. It is not an internship. It is not a job shadow or any other kind of work experience. It is a real hire. And it's usually driven by businesses. And so a lot of times, and I'm just going to share that a lot of times third-party organizations, training providers, colleges, CBOs, they want to be helpful and start a registered apprenticeship program, and that's great. We need third-party, we need group-sponsored registered apprenticeship programs, but they then have to get employer partners because they're not actually hiring the apprentices. It must be employer-driven. The second piece is that it requires a structured on-the-job training program. And so at the work site where the apprentices work, they will have a mentor who oversees their training and development, kind of their career trajectory, and to ensure that they're gaining proficiencies against a structured set of competencies. That's the piece that you register at the time that you register your apprenticeship program, or what are the competencies that a person in this occupation should know and be able to do. Apprenticeship programs are only developed and designed around occupations. And so you wouldn't have an apprenticeship program in an industry. You can't have an apprenticeship program in healthcare or manufacturing. It must be very specific to an occupation, millwright, forger, because there's different competencies about what a person in each of those occupations needs to know and be able to do. The mentor there's usually a state-based rule about how many apprentices and mentors there can be. So there's a ratio of apprentice to mentor. In some states, you have to have 4 mentors for every apprentice, and in some states you can have 1 mentor and 1 apprentice, but that ratio must be followed. And it also will a little bit dictate the number of apprentices that you can hire, because employers need to have mentors who also work at the company who can oversee the training for the apprentices. And so that ratio becomes critical. The third component is that it requires classroom hours. This is not something where you can say, oh, they're learning on the job. They already have an on-the-job learning program. They also have to remove themselves from the work sites, even if the company has designed a classroom hours to be on site, and they have hired a trainer and that person is training them on site. It still must be that they are in a classroom and that they are having some related technical instruction. This is the entire premise behind work-based learning theory and practice. They have to learn the theory so that they can then put it into practice. There's at least 144 hours of classroom learning required for every apprenticeship program. There is often more, but that's the minimum. The fourth requirement is rewards for skills gain. So this means wage increases. An apprenticeship program, when you register it, you'll start off at a lower wage because you have an unqualified person in that job, and you wouldn't pay them what you might pay somebody who's fully qualified. But by the end of the program, they need to be up here where you would have paid somebody who is fully qualified. So over time, you increase their wages on a scale on a schedule that works for you at whatever milestone or time-based flag you put into the program. Those wage increases are up to you, but they start at a lower wage and it increases to the fully qualified rate. It ends with a national occupational credential. So the fifth component is that at the end of the program, the apprentice themselves will receive their journey worker card, or really it's a certificate from the Department of Labor that they're fully qualified for that occupation. It's a quality seal that should be recognized by any other employer across the country, that if a person has finished their apprenticeship program, they can take that card with them and become employed in with any company who is hiring for that role. The sixth one and the sixth and seventh were kind of added, I think, in 2022. So they're very new, is diversity. So apprenticeship programs must reflect the demographics of your area. And there is a utilization analysis that is done that requires apprenticeship programs to at least target populations who are missing within the population of their apprentices. So what is the population of your area? And then what is the population of your apprentices? And if, let's say, the population around you has 50% women, 50% men, and your apprentice population is 90% men, then you should probably target some women in your recruiting. And then quality and safety. So all apprenticeship programs must have rigor. They must be real training programs that are training apprentices for a career in this field. And they must have safety. So you have to train your apprentices in safety requirements. Now, outside of those seven components, an apprenticeship program can be literally anything that you need it to be for your company. And I have the pleasure today of introducing you to an employer who is participating in Registered Apprenticeship Program and has been for some time. And I'd like to welcome Kim Morris to the stage. So hi, Kim. Why don't you go ahead and start by introducing yourself and share a little bit about CWC Textron.
Okay, well, thank you very much for inviting me here this afternoon to speak with the group. We're very excited about our program, so hopefully we'll be able to help some folks out here today. So I work for a company called CWC Textron. We're located in Muskegon, Michigan. We're part of a large organization called Textron. Textron is a multi-industry company. It's on just about every continent in the world. So globally, we have about 35,000 employees. You might recognize some of our companies, E-Z-GO Golf Carts, Cessna Airplane, Bell Helicopter, even Articat, snowmobiles. So those are all sister companies to us. Here at CWC in the Muskegon location, we are a foundry that makes cast iron camshafts and crankshafts out of gray and ductile iron. Our most used metal is the ductile iron. We've been around for over 116 years, so we've been doing this for a very, very long time. And we have about 270 employees here at our site in Muskegon. The hourly employees that we have here are represented by the United Auto Workers, so the UAW Local 539. And as I said, you know, it's nice because we're a little company, we know everybody, but yet we have this larger company that has a lot of good resources and whatnot for us, and one of which is our education assistance program, which ties into the apprenticeship program. So that's us.
Great, thanks so much. So let's think back into the beginning and consider, why did you start the Registered Apprenticeship Program, or sort of what problem were you trying to solve at the time that you decided to launch the program?
Sure. Well, I think we were in the same spot that a lot of employers were in at the time and still are today. It's the fact that we have been struggling to find experienced, skilled tradesmen. Specifically here at CWC, the tradesmen that we have are electricians, millwrights, and machine repair. The baby boomers were starting to retire. folks my age were sending their kids to college and trying to push them towards, going and getting that bachelor's degree. And we tend to forget about the kids that maybe college just isn't the right thing for them. And we weren't really pushing them to check out trade schools. So when it came to trying to find that talent pool was really shrinking. So we had to look at ourselves and kind of figure out, okay, what can we do to kind of help that? So, we over the years we looked at different things as far as how do we recruit differently? Is that something maybe we need to look at and change? What can we do with our union contract that might make going into the skilled trades a little more appealing to those? But unfortunately, we weren't real successful at trying to find what that thing was that we needed to change. So we, of course, we're sharing this with our union leadership here at the plant and also with the region. And they were the ones that actually suggested an apprenticeship program. A couple of the union leadership folks actually had gone through skilled trades apprenticeship in their career, and that's how they got started. So that's kind of how it all started and why we needed to do it.
Great. And so you mentioned a couple of occupations. Can you share a little bit more about the model of your program and, how long are the programs? Anything else that you'd like to share about the actual apprenticeship programs themselves?
Sure. So because we partnered with the UAW, we used their model per se. And what that model is we have a joint apprenticeship training committee, and that's made up of 3 management, meaning company folk, and then 3 union leadership people. It's a volunteer kind of position, and what we do is we get together and we're the ones that, based on the outline that the UAW gave us, we decided what the program was going to look like. We reviewed the different classes that were needed that were maybe more geared towards CWC. We looked at the number of hours and types of skills that the 3 trades needed, and we came up with, the structure as far as the classes and the hours needed in order to graduate with them. This committee meets regularly, kind of where the businesses are.
Kim, I'm so sorry to interrupt you. I think we're getting a little bit of latency in the feed.
You want me to turn my camera off and see if that helps?
If you think that might help, it might be good because we want to be able to hear your words.
Yes. Well, let's try this and see if this is any better.
That's great.
Okay. So as I mentioned, the Joint Apprenticeship Committee, we meet regularly. We make sure that we're looking at where the apprentices are at, how they're doing. Are they continuing to take classes and all the requirements that they have? And if not, what are those issues and how can we solve them? So again, that's management and union working together to make that better. We also partnered with Muskegon Community College, which is a local community college here that works with several companies in the area on their apprenticeship programs. And so we obviously took their recommendations in what classes they had that made the most sense for our organization. So as I mentioned, we have 3 different trades here at CWC: the millwright, machine repair, and electrician. Each program is 4 years to complete. And when the employee completes that 4-year program of both classes and on-the-job learning hours, they are only about 2 to 3 classes away from an associate's degree from Muskegon Community College. So that's a great thing for the employees as well. All of our apprentices are then matched up to a journeyman who is their mentor, So it's a one-on-one ratio. And so that kind of limits us as to how many apprentices we can have as well. Not everybody is a great trainer. Not everybody wants to, take the extra time to be a mentor, and that's okay. But that's kind of how we determine how many apprentices we can have at a time as well. Apprentices in our program are still required to work their normal shifts and any overtime that may be mandated. Any voluntary overtime is certainly up to them, but it's a lot. It's a lot for people. And I think when we first started the program in 2015, people signed up for it because they saw that wage at the end, right? Skilled trades typically have a higher wage than production. And so that was really great. And yeah, I'll go to school and do what I need to do. And it was a lot harder than a lot of them thought. So we saw a lot of attrition in the
So I hear, sorry, I think that you cut out again. And so I'm just going to kind of ask a follow-up question before we talk about some of the challenges that you faced with attrition. You mentioned that they're only a few hours away from their degree by the time they finish the program in 4 years. Does CWC Textron provide some type of support or tuition reimbursement for people to get their degree at the end of the program? I'm just curious.
Yes, we absolutely do. We have an education assistance program that as long as they're going for some sort of a degree or certificate program that relates to something they would do at CWC, we have a certain amount that we pay for graduate programs and undergrad programs. And so the whole apprenticeship program is run through that. And then if they were to continue to want to get their associate degree, then it would go through that program as well.
Aha, that sounds so great for your employees. And then you also talked about some of the partnerships that you've built over time with the college and the union. Is there anyone else who's supporting the apprenticeship program outside of those two partners?
Well, certainly the Department of Labor.
Right. Yes. So you're really cutting out. I don't know.
Like I said, I apologize. It's our internet here. We need to get a line replaced in the new year, so it does get bad.
No apologies necessary. I'm just letting you know that we were having some trouble hearing that last part where you were talking about partnership with the Department of Labor.
Yeah, so they help us certainly with the program itself. That's where we have to register everything and keep track of all the employees' hours and what steps they're in. So and they provide different training and guidance if we have questions as well.
Right. And so you had started to talk about some of the challenges that you faced in the early days when you first started the program and that you had some attrition. Can you talk about some of the challenges that you kind of have overcome over time and how you face those challenges?
For sure. Like I said, the main reason for attrition was people didn't realize all that was involved with the program. They thought, I have to go to school, one class a quarter, not a big So to help with that is started to have regular one-on-one touch-base meetings with each apprentice. So if they needed help in figuring out what their next class was going to be and getting registered for that class, or if they're having issues with their journeyman, they're not learning what they think they should learn, or maybe they request a different journeyman. that's just their time to kind of tell us how it's going for them and what we can do maybe to help them make it a little easier through the program. So I think that's really done a lot to help the attrition subside. So we've had real good retention over the past few years. Since 2015, when we started, we only had about 2 people graduate, and both of them left the company. They were fairly new employees at that time, so didn't have a lot of stake in the game, so to speak. But since then, we've graduated 4 more, and they've all stayed with us. I think when you can promote from within, so to speak, and invest in employees, they certainly want to stay here and feel good about staying here. And you know, that's why we've seen our retention certainly get better. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. That's really incredible, and I just kind of want to repeat some of what I heard because of the latency issue. It sounds like you adopted kind of you started having conversations with the apprentices themselves about you know what their challenges were rather than what your challenges were. Would you say that that's a fair assessment?
Yes, absolutely. I think that's what was the key to us understanding what their issues were and what we could do to help them versus just waiting for them to come to us if they had an issue, because that's not normally going to happen, right? So
Right. Yeah, that was really great that you instituted that. And so, oh, I think I forgot my question. Um, so talk about, why don't you share with us about how the program is benefiting CWC Textron now? Um, what are the benefits?
yeah, what's interesting about it is we're finding we have a job posting process. So when we post an apprenticeship, we have to give the opportunity to all employees first. And we have some folks that sign up that we never would have thought were mechanically inclined or even interested in a program like this. One individual ended up scoring really, really high on one of our pre-placement tests that we use for the maintenance group. And he's probably one of the most eager and the most involved apprentice that we have. And without us giving that opportunity to our employees first, we never would have known that about him. So we're really excited at the opportunity that he's been given to be a part of the apprenticeship program. The other thing that we're seeing as well is because we only have a limited number of apprenticeships, we've got some folks that are not in maintenance skilled trades positions, but they want to be. And what some of them are actually starting to do is if they're interested, let's say, in an electrician apprenticeship, they're going to start taking classes now before they even get into the apprenticeship, because they'll be that much further ahead once they do get into the program. So we have one of our female, we call them maintenance techs, and you know, not a high skilled position at all. It's kind of level 1 maintenance position, and she is all excited about becoming an electrician. So we don't currently have one that's available right now. The spots are all taken, but she's already started taking classes so that when it does get to that position, when it's posted, she's that much further ahead than some of the other employees that might apply. There's other criteria that we use, but certainly that's a huge one. It's going to help her out when she's in the program and not being so busy between work, home and family, and school.
Right. And I remembered my question, and it was about incumbent workers. So, in the beginning, when I was talking about the core components of apprenticeship, and I said it started with businesses, you have to hire an apprentice. You've already hired all of the people who are in your program, and you are offering this program to incumbent workers alone, right? And so, and you also talked about placement tests. So can you share a little bit more about that? You have, in terms of your recruiting internally?
Yeah. So yes, we do offer it internally first, and they have to go through an interview process with the Joint Apprenticeship Committee meeting or committee team. And those are just questions. We ask the same questions of everybody just to try and get a feel if they're mechanically inclined. Do they tinker? For all of our maintenance positions, even if we're hiring from the outside, we have an online test that also kind of measures their aptitude when it comes to the skilled trades, whether it's, again, millwright, machine repair, or electrician. We have 3 different tests. Based on the one that they're trying, we kind of look to see, again, it's not so much that we're expecting a high score because they're an apprentice, they're at an entry level, but for instance, the gentleman that I talked about that really surprised us, he scored higher on that test than a lot of our current workers. So, you know, it's just amazing what those pre-employment tests can kind of help you figure out as well. So that's been a great addition to our program.
I think it's really great that you're allowing your workforce to self-select for the program. Because as you said, you know, this person surprised you and maybe he wasn't one that you might have thought, oh, this is somebody who's going to apply, and yet they did.
Mm-hmm.
So what advice would you have for other employers who are interested in registered apprenticeship, but they just kind of haven't taken the leap yet?
I would say reach out to their local community college and possibly other employers in the area, and just you know, start your fact finding and data finding. You know, you can't succeed without trying it. You know, consider it's an investment that the company has to make, obviously, but consider the impact on employee engagement that it will have, because it's, you know, if you invest in your employees, then they're invested in you. So it's just something that you gotta reach out and start trying. The local community colleges are usually very good resources to help with that, because they're typically helping other companies in the area do the same thing. And you know, if you have other employers that are doing it and willing to share what their pain points have been and what their hurdles have been, it just kind of helps you get that program the way you need it to be. So just jump in and try is what I would say. We had no idea what we were doing when we started either, but we just worked through it.
Thank you so much for that, Kim. And I just want to put a plug in here right now for Jobs for the Future, JFF. We're an intermediary, and so we can also help with anybody who wants to get started with apprenticeship programs, walking you through the entire process, helping you register, coming up with the marketing and recruiting plan. So those are just some of the things that JFF can do for companies who are interested in developing and establishing a registered apprenticeship program of their own. Does anyone from our audience have any questions for Kim? We have this incredible resource here, and she can share with you anything that you might be curious about. If I haven't asked it, please feel free to ask.
I've scared them all.
I doubt it. All right. Well, if you come up with any questions.
I actually have a question. Yes.
Go ahead, Jessica.
This has just been fabulous, and I learned so much on all of these webinars. And if you do have a question that occurs to you after the fact, you know, feel free to follow up or put it in the chat. But I was really intrigued by the kind of the mentorship that we were talking about, in terms of, oh, I didn't really recognize how much of a lift it was going to be, and then folks kind of were reaching out and getting support. And just curious if you could talk a little bit more about you know, the personal touch and some of the changes you may have seen in some people when that kind of started to be a part of your process.
Well, I think for sure, like I mentioned, it was a little bit of a bumpy road to start. We didn't have a real good idea of who was a good trainer who was a good mentor. We didn't really have a good handle even on the individual skills that our tradesmen had. So to try and pair them up with an apprentice was more or less a shot in the dark to start with. But as we've learned more about the program, as we've learned more about our current journeymen, we've put them through this online testing that I mentioned as well. We can see where their strengths are, and it helps us to match them up with their apprentices a little bit better. So certainly that was a big learning curve, but a very big important part of the success of the mentoring piece of the program. So I think that, did that answer your question?
Yeah, wonderful. I was just really intrigued, like I said, about how to match and make sure that they're feeling supported and that kind of stuff. So it was great. Thank you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you so much, Kim. This has been incredible. I love CWC's whole journey through apprenticeship. It sounds like you have a great relationship with your union as well. And so I just really appreciate you sharing all of that with us. I am going to turn this over to Becky, who's going to share with you about how, share with everyone about how you can get involved in Registered Apprenticeship and the Metal Project. Becky?
Sure. Thanks, Melissa, and thanks, Kim. I'm like Jessica. I learned something on every one of these calls, and I love how you talked about how once you get it going, it really develops. You develop sort of a culture of learning at your company. I love the story about the young woman who started taking classes at a time. We love to hear about that. So, I am a senior manager here at Jobs of the Future and part of the metal team working on this project with Lucinda and the Composite Institute. So I'm just here to talk about all the resources available that we can help you develop a program if you're interested in apprenticeship. So next. As Melissa said, we are an official intermediary in this space, meaning that we can bring together all these resources to help you on your journey to learn about apprenticeship, to adopt apprenticeship, and to expand it. So one of the things we do is just talk to companies and start where they are and say, what's your biggest pain point? What's the occupation you're having trouble filling? And then we help them, build out a plan for apprenticeship and how that can, address some of their workforce challenges. We also talk to them about, why it's important to recruit equitably, from among their employees or outside their company. We do a lot of registration support because some of you may know that, a lot of the states have different processes, but we work across the country on our projects, so we know how to deal with the paperwork in different parts of the country. And we also have some other partners, especially some of them on this call, helping us in Pennsylvania, which is where this project started. So we're here to help. Can go to the next one. We can talk about the incentive funding maybe. Okay, before I get to incentive funding, I do want to mention this. There are a lot of tools, there are a lot of help that's available through this project. And some of it is curriculum that the Composite Institute has developed. And the secret is to go to the Composite Institute website to see that the ACENET curriculum, which is machining, or metal, which is about metal. And there's free training that anybody can take. They can sign their new apprentices up. You can have people in your own company take it. Really helpful information. And some of the partners are also having boot camps around the country that you can send people to. So just a lot of great resources. If you can get in touch with us, we can put you in touch with them, or you can register for the project right online. And they are going to have like an industry advisory board. So there's a lot of ways to get involved. So JFF's part is the apprenticeship part. So that's why we were brought on. And I'll talk in a minute a bit more about resources we have to support apprenticeship. But I also wanted to mention FEF, which is the Foundry Educational Foundation. They are doing an internship program. And if you're interested in sponsoring an intern this summer, maybe the summer after, get in touch with us and we can put you in touch with them to learn more about what they're doing. Next. This is what I was saying about resources. The main resource that we have is our brains and our knowledge and our experience about apprenticeship. Melissa's been doing it for years. I've been doing it for years. Lucinda has. We know where the pitfalls are. We know where the benefits are. And, we try to, go in well prepared and tell you here's what you're going to need to do. Here's how we can help. So, rely on us for that technical assistance. But we also have funding that helps. And this is really, it is not enough to start a new program, but it certainly does help defray some of the costs. So for this project in particular, it's up to $24,000 per company, up to $4,000 per participant. And it can be used for almost anything but wages. So a lot of the companies use it for, offsetting the cost of related training or buying supplies for their apprentices. And I got to talk to one company that said it was like Christmas Day that their apprentices got tools and a laptop, and that's how they use the money. And they were much more excited about the tools than the laptop. It was like Christmas morning at their company. And, that's really it helps the company, it helps the apprentices. So we love to hear stories like that. And for this particular project, which is metal, your company has to be involved in casting, forging, and plate rolling. Those are the three areas that really do qualify. But if we have any questions, whether your company qualifies, just send me a note and we can look it over and talk it over, and I can also ask Lucinda to weigh in on it. So next. I think that's it for me, Melissa.
Great. Thank you so much, Becky. If there are any final questions or if you need to jot down any of our email addresses so that you can reach out, please do so now. And I'm going to wait just my usual 7 seconds to see if anyone's thought of anything that they'd like to ask. Okay, well, hearing none. Thank you again to Kim for taking time out of your day to come and share with us about your apprenticeship program. And also special thanks to Lucinda and Becky and Jessica for running the show today. And this will be up on the Metal website on our YouTube page, along with all of our series. And please join us in January for a special session with Natalie Jellyman, who is with Goodwin from England. So I think it's going to be exciting to hear from her. And we will see you next time. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.